Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel thanks to the amazing team over at ThreeZero. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at their all new DLX HULKBUSTER, of course inspired by Avengers Age of Ultron. Now for those of you looking to add this guy to the collection, at the time of this recording he is sadly out of stock over at ThreeZero, however is in stock over at Showzy's store, so for that of course I shall pack a link down in the description box below. I was incredibly impressed with their DLX Iron Man Mark 43, especially considering that it was their first entry into this all new Infinity Saga range. And to be honest, I really have only been used to picking up their Transformers figures, so when it was announced that they were also going to be doing a HULKBUSTER, I was actually really excited to see how this guy would turn out, as the HULKBUSTER is in fact actually one of my favourite Iron Man suit designs from the entire MCU, and I've got to be honest and say that as you would expect from ThreeZero, they have absolutely delivered. Now taking a look here at the sculpt and paintwork, honestly it is immaculate, a beautiful representation of how the HULKBUSTER armour looked in Avengers Age of Ultron. You can see there for the head design, it just looks so damn nice. You'll also see this incredible, almost metallic candy red, completely coated literally head to toe on this guy. It really does look magnificent. You can see we've also got this incredibly awesome metallic gold going on here for the head sculpt with some subtle bursts of silver just to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. And in all honesty, I'm really and truly just going to let the figure talk for itself, as from every single angle you display this guy in, there is something new to admire and to take in. He has been detailed so damn nicely. You can see here the clasps that do in fact actually hold the cockpit together also have been sculpted and painted really well. As we spin our attention here to the shoulder design, they have in fact completely sculpted as well as painted the armpit joint, of which we'll take a closer look at of course when we go through articulation. But here for the arms, they're incredibly thick and robust. You can see the amazing attention to detail that we've got going on here for the biceps, and even as we spin our attention down here to the lower section, the fisted hands too have also been fully painted as well as sculpted, which is a really nice touch. As we flip our attention here to the back of the HULKBUSTER, much like the front, this too has also been completely painted as well as sculpted, perfectly captures the appearance that we saw in the movie. I think this looks incredibly impressive. Even as we take a look at it here from a bird's eye perspective, you can see that amazing metallic red as well as those silver and golden highlights, and we also do have what I imagine are almost repulsor blasts here at the back, all of which have been cast out of this clear piece of plastic. He does in fact actually have some LEDs, of which I'll showcase in just a second. But even as we take a look at the shoulder armor, you can once again see that amazing detailing. Even here from a side perspective, we've got some really nice panel lining which looks awesome. And then as we just turn our attention here to the legs, these, as you would expect from this armor, are once again incredibly thick and robust. And one thing worth mentioning is that this guy, much like the rest of their DLX line, does in fact actually have quite a significant amount of diecast packed into him, which makes him an incredibly weighty piece. I really do think he's been built so well. You can see here for the torso region, we've got the arc reactor there slap bang in the center, along with once again some fantastic sculpt work as well as paint on the underside of the armor, which is a really nice touch. As we take a look here towards the legs, you can see all of the various different panels. I really do think this looks awesome. Here for the knees, these two have also been painted and sculpted so nicely, and you can once again see more of those repulsor blasts here embedded within the shins as well as the inside of the legs. And the foot design is just so awesome. I'm not entirely sure whether or not it's because I'm a huge fan of Transformers, but I love this almost multi-layered look that we've got going on here. This really does look sublime. You can see even as we spin our attention here to the back, completely sculpted as well as once again completely painted. Such an astonishing looking piece, and it only gets better considering this guy is an incredibly chunky design. You would expect it to be slightly compromised where the articulation is concerned, but absolutely not. ThreeZero have gone above and beyond in order to pack in literally every single joint that you would expect from a standard humanoid figure. So in regards to the head, this can in fact actually look up that far, which is pretty decent considering the nature of the design. And once again, that does also reveal some internal detailing here of the metallic silver as well as some mechanical mechanisms. Of course, it can look down that far, rotate left to right. Here for the shoulders, personally what I would recommend doing would be to extend these here out to the sides. The shoulder pads do in fact also hinge, which once again does reveal some really nice detail, but that does allow you to butterfly the arms forwards and backwards, which is super awesome. Of course, we can hinge these here out to the side to a really decent degree. Here at the bicep, we of course also do get a rotation, and I love the functionality here to the elbow. So we do in fact actually get a double bend. I know considering the design you would think that it would be near enough impossible, but ThreeZero constantly amazing their customers. You can in fact completely curl this, and what is even more awesome is that this panel here is indeed spring loaded, so it will in fact actually spring there into place, move out of the way to allow for that range of motion, which is just so nicely done. Of course, we can then crunch this section forward and that panel will shoot back into place. We do in fact get a ball joint here at the wrist, which can rotate the full 360 as well as hinge back and forth. As per tradition with some of their DLX Transformers figures, the torso articulation is just remarkable. So we get a fantastic crunch going all the way forward at 2 joints. So one here at the upper diaphragm and then one at, I believe, where the mid torso would be. So this can crunch forwards that far, which is just so nicely done, especially considering how thick and bulky that chest is. And as mentioned beforehand, much like the Transformers, it does also reveal some really nice spinal detailing, and you can see how the entire back too has been completely painted as well as sculpted in that silver, gold and metallic red, and just showcasing how that looks when it is fully compressed. You can see how all of those panels do seamlessly cover one another. As we flip here to the front, we can in fact actually get this to rock side to side, which exposes some really nice detailing, and we also do in fact actually get a rotation here at the top as well as here in the middle, which allows for a fantastic range of motion. Overall, in regards to the upper body, I think it is so nicely done. Now, as we just move the arms out of the way, as things are going to get slightly cluttered when we come here to the torso, you are in fact going to want to take these panels here and essentially just hinge these out to the side. Now, if I had one gripe with this figure, it's that I do find the hip joints to be slightly too stiff. Now, granted, they kind of have to be stiff due to the enormous weight that we've got going on for the top, but in some regards, it can be pretty difficult to pose him, and he does in fact actually have a really great range at the hip, so it is slightly unfortunate. But we do get a drop-down joint here at the hip, which can go all the way down, which does allow you, if you can, to in fact actually bring this here all the way forward, and I'm in fact using an enormous amount of force to bring this here to roughly 90. That personally is as far as I'm willing to push it. It could probably go even further, but due to how stiff those joints are, I just do not want to risk breaking it at all. But even that is a great range considering how hefty this guy is. We also do get a double joint here at the knee, much like the elbow. It has been engineered so nicely, so as we just curl this, you can see how all of the various panels will begin to automatically shift into place, and that there is just a fantastic range for what is once again an incredibly chunky design. That is so nicely done, and you can see here all of that amazing sculpt as well as paintwork. We can then hinge that all the way up. He does in fact actually have a hinge joint here out to the side, which can pretty much do the full splits, which is really impressive. We of course also do get a rotation here at the thigh, and then as we spin our attention down to the foot, this too is also incredibly impressive. We do in fact actually get an extendable joint, so if we just shift that entire section there downwards, we can take these panels, hinge that forward, and then take this back panel, hinge that out to the side, which will allow you to tilt the toe down forwards that far, as well as of course rock it side to side. So overall, in terms of articulation, honestly, just as impressive as the actual overall paint and sculpt work. I am so impressed with what they've been able to accomplish for this guy, once again, especially considering how thick and bulky this design truly is. Now, if you thought this piece couldn't get any better, just wait until I show you some of the other tricks that ThreeZero have up their sleeves. So he also does in fact actually have a few LEDs going on, so if we simply push this arc reactor here, it will indeed cause this to illuminate an incredibly vibrant white. You can see there that is just so damn vibrant, and it is rather difficult to convey on camera, but the actual arc reactor itself has been sculpted internally to give you that arc reactor look that we saw in the movie. As we just come here to the underside of the head, you can see we do in fact actually get a switch there that when pushed forward will indeed cause the eyes to illuminate a really piercing white once again, so that is really cool. And then as we flip here to the back and remove this panel, we can in fact also activate a third set of LEDs. Just by pushing this button here, you can see how some of these back arc reactors will also illuminate. Now, a minor critique I have with this is that unlike the two LED switches that we've got going on for the front, they're not really seamlessly integrated into the design. You do have to pull off this back panel, and to be honest, I don't actually think it would have been that difficult to have slightly engineered maybe a push button so that you could have essentially just push this here and it would have caused for this to activate. But overall, I think that too is also a really nice touch. It of course would have been awesome to have gotten the repulsor blasts in the fist illuminated, or some of the ones that we've got going down here for the legs, but considering the price point and how much is actually going on in particular here with the knee joints, I can definitely see as to why maybe it was slightly more impossible to do than what we've got going on here for the top. Very easy to in fact actually switch off. We also do get included two pairs of interchangeable hands, so of course we do get the repulsor blast hands. You can see super nicely sculpted. Once again, would have been cool if we maybe could have seen articulated fingers on this guy, especially considering how chunky the design is. I think it could have been possible, compatible, but nevertheless you can see the sculpt as well as paintwork on these look absolutely fantastic, and we also do get included a pair of more relaxed palms in addition to the fists that he already comes packaged with fresh out of the box. So overall the sculpt and paintwork on these two is really awesome. And for those of you who may recall, in the ThreeZero DLX Mark 43 Iron Man instructions, it did also kind of hint that maybe it would be compatible here with this Hulkbuster, and yes, it absolutely is. So without further ado, let's get down to that. As we bring this guy in here for a closer look, you are going to want to take these shoulder pads, just hinge them out to the sides. We can also take these clasps, hinge those up, and then essentially take these sections and just hinge them out to the sides, just like so. We can then flip here to a bird's eye perspective and pull this panel out, just hinge that there to the back. We can then take these two front panels, shoot these sections forwards, and then essentially you are going to want to take these and just pull those forwards and extend this joint. Come to this side and repeat the exact same process. We can then take these two clasps here in the center, untab those, hinge them there out to the side, and of course finally take the actual head section, lift this up to reveal the canopy or cockpit of the Hulkbuster. And this too has also been completely painted as well as sculpted, and this is really where you're of course going to want to bring in your DLX ThreeZero Mark 43. Now you may notice that I do in fact actually have the flight stand attached, and it's because you can in fact actually almost display this guy looking as if though he's ejecting from the Hulkbuster suit, which I once again think is a super cool display option. So as we just untab it from the base, you can see how it does create this port. Essentially you just take this here and snap that in there just like so, and you can see here that we've got Iron Man looking as if though he is in fact ejecting from the suit, which is just super awesome. One thing worth mentioning is that when you do in fact actually set this display up, he will of course gain a fair amount of height, so definitely just be sure that you do in fact actually have the space to accommodate this display in the collection. But just slowly rotating the camera down, you can see how that flight adapter does almost seamlessly integrate into the cockpit, and then of course once you attach that to the Mark 43, you are in for a pretty damn awesome display. But it doesn't in fact actually end there. What you can then proceed to do is in fact essentially dismember the lower forearm here of Iron Man. So just pull this section here clean off, of course come to this side and repeat the same process, and then basically just give the torso here a slight wriggle, and you can see how it will essentially detach the almost bust from the lower torso. Now once that's complete, basically you just insert this portion here of Iron Man into the cockpit. So just make sure those biceps are tucked in nice and closely to the chest, and you can see we've got the upper torso seamlessly integrated into the actual canopy slash cockpit, and my goodness does this look so freaking awesome. This is probably how I'm more than likely going to actually display this on the shelf, as I just think the attention to detail that's gone into the actual canopy alone is just super remarkable, and the fact that both figures are indeed cross-compatible with one another is a super nice touch, especially considering that these are on the slightly smaller side when in comparison to some of the other 1/6 scale offerings that are out there. Now just for a very quick display option, of course you can push the arc reactor here of the Hulkbuster armor, we can push the arc reactor there of Iron Man, and as we just very quickly turn on the LEDs here for Iron Man's head, that in my opinion is just such a freaking cool looking display. That there looks absolutely fantastic. Props to ThreeZero. In my opinion, they've absolutely smashed it out of the park with this Hulkbuster. Now, very quickly, before we proceed to wrap up this review, he does in fact actually have some integrated weapons built in to the forearm guards, which once again is just such a nice touch. Now, I believe the instructions referred to these as tasers. Personally, I don't really recall them in the movie. It's been quite some time since I've watched Age of Ultron, but essentially, in order to almost deploy these, you take this golden armor here and just shift this out to the side, slide this section back, which will reveal some really nice metallic silver detailing. We can then take this section here and fully extend this entire section forward, and then just fold this piece out just like so. And there you've got one option for how you can indeed display the taser. And then as I just show you the second option here on this side, I believe for this essentially you just hinge this up, basically the same as the opposite side, pull down on the taser just like so. But instead of in fact actually compressing this here all the way, you will in fact just want to lift this section out and basically just cap that there over the top. So those are the two different display options that you can have for the taser. Personally, I really like the way this looks. You can see how it does in fact actually expose some really nice detail, as well as once again some awesome metallic silver. And here for a very quick size comparison, here we have both the ThreeZero DLX HULKBUSTER and Mark 43 compared next to one another, and I actually think the scale is pretty damn close to what you would expect from the movie. And you can see, for those of you who did in fact actually find their Mark 43 to be a pretty substantial size, this Hulkbuster is literally in a league of its own. It's almost double the size of a standard Iron Man suit, and in my personal opinion, I think it will demand so much shelf presence. And so, some final thoughts for this ThreeZero DLX HULKBUSTER, of course based on Avengers Age of Ultron. This, as per tradition with ThreeZero, is a smashing piece. Honestly, probably one of their best engineered pieces to date. I think the seamless integration with their Mark 43 truly is the icing on the cake. I absolutely love how that bust looks within the canopy section. It looks so awesome, especially when you've got all of the LEDs turned on. It looks as if though it's literally been ripped directly out of the movie. I think the attention to detail as well as the paint overall for the Hulkbuster once again is smashing. There are no paint blemishes on this guy at all. Everything is exactly how it appeared on screen. That awesome metallic candy red that they've completely decked this guy out in, I think looks so damn nicely done. And as mentioned throughout this review, despite the design overall being incredibly thick and robust, he's in fact articulated almost just as well as some of those more sleeker, more humanoid designs that we've seen ThreeZero put out. I really do think the engineering, especially where the articulation is concerned, is probably some of their best to date. You can literally get this guy into almost any pose that you want, and that's something that can't be said for some of the other Hulkbuster offerings out there. I also think the inclusion of diecast adds a great ton of weight to this piece. Honestly, you won't in fact actually realize just how hefty he is until you've got him in hand, and I think some of the LED features that we actually have packed into him also are a really nice touch. Of course, I would have loved for the repulsors in the shins to illuminate, and especially the actual repulsor blasts in the hands, but I can completely understand as to why that maybe could have caused some problems, not only from an engineering perspective, but also just in terms of a visual. It probably wouldn't have looked that great for the interchangeable hands to essentially just have a clear piece for the palm, especially where the fisted hands are concerned, so I definitely can understand as to why they did decide against that. And another thing that I think is greatly in the figure's favour is that he is in fact actually a pretty decent size. He's not too big, not too small, and I think will in fact actually fit in a collection really damn nicely. That was something that majorly turned me off with the Hot Toys Hulkbuster. It's just way too big. I don't have anywhere in the collection to in fact actually accommodate it, and I'm pretty damn certain that it would be nowhere near as enjoyable and as fun to pose around as this particular piece. And in my personal opinion, just by going from some of the images that I've seen online, this is almost just as detailed, and when you factor in the substantial price difference, I've got to give it once again props to ThreeZero. They've done an incredible job. So with all that being said, their Hulkbuster is currently in stock and available over at Shozy Store, so for that of course I shall pack a link down in the description box below. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below on not only the figure but also what you guys thought of the review. Do you in fact agree with my thoughts? Do you think that perhaps I'm being slightly too positive on the figure? Are there some areas of which you would maybe be slightly more harsh on? Personally, I think this is an almost solid 10 out of 10 release. I really do think it's some of ThreeZero's best work yet, and I cannot wait to see as to where they not only take the DLX line but also the Infinity Saga line, as it would be really cool to see some of those other larger scale characters actually get the ThreeZero treatment. Once again, I want to give a massive shout out and thanks to ThreeZero for sending this product sample my way here for a review, and as always I thank you guys all so much for watching. Until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.